I'm your host for this live presentation where we always ask the provocative and important question, where did we come from? Apes, aliens, or Adam? And tonight we are going to be talking about crystal and crystal growth. We're going to be doing an unboxing. It's a kind of a little different type of unboxing. Let me show you the box. Here it is. This is what we're going to be opening shortly. But we want to kind of build up to it to explain what we're going to be showing in that box. And welcome aboard. So we're going to talk about crystals, okay? You see this crystal right here? It's beautiful, isn't it? How old is this crystal? And how long did it take to form? Now, nobody was there to observe it, so we have to guess, correct? Maybe? Well, if we believe that the Earth is 4.51 billion years old, then crystal formation has happened ever since the tectonic plates came together. And in those fissures, did I say that correctly? There's heat and magma and a lot of what crystal or crystal derivatives. And I'll give you an example. What do we got here? The different types of crystals out there can be citrin, or it can be amethyst. There's a number of different types of crystals out there were formed with heat and the right conditions in order to, as the heat cooled down, the crystals formed. Maybe you've seen sugar do that in a liquid. Or maybe you purchased one of those scientific kits and were able to produce crystals. Do we have any proof that crystals formed either quickly or not so quickly? Well, we do, and that's what we're going to see inside this box that I'm going to show you in just a moment. Now, this may not be that exciting as much as maybe a dinosaur fossil or something, but I'm going to show you some pretty cool, I'm going to say weird things that supports this idea. What idea is that? You have two philosophies, two sciences, two positions, if you want to put it that way, that are vying for your attention. One is the evolutionary modern geology proposition. And two, the Genesis proposition, that the book of Genesis actually is giving us an actual account of the creation of the world, a time frame when it was done, and then a causation of all the sedimentary layers in the fossils, including the crystals that we see today during the worldwide flood some 4,400 years ago. Today, we look at that as religion, not as science. And we look at it as a science and not religion. This over here is objective, observable, and can be trusted to a greater degree, whereas this position over here, the creation position, is one of, the critics will say, of fairy tales, can't be proven, unseen sky daddy. They use words like that to describe the Genesis account. Well, let me tell you something first off. Spoiler alert. When you're going to characterize the opposite position, just a tip, you can do it and maintain your integrity by not allowing you to denigrate it, just to try to force your position on someone else by trying to make them feel humiliated, because that's exactly what's happening. Think about this for a second. Let me just quote you something, and then you tell me if that's a sky daddy. In the beginning was the Word, okay? And the earth, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Think about that just for a moment. And the earth was without form and void. So it was here before creation week took place. How long was it here? Could be 1 trillion years. We don't really know. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And then God said, let there be light. And instantly light was created. Let the earth bring forth grass on day 3. And instantly grass was put for, or was created by the power of the word that came out of his mouth. That is the thing that manifested the grass. And the reason why grass remains is because there's not been a word following up that says grass ceased to exist. So therefore, grass continues to come up every single year for the last 6,000 plus years. That's not a sky daddy, guys and gals. That's something different. So my encouragement is that it's okay to give your side of the story without the belittlement. That's enough on that. That's the most rant you're going to see out of me when it comes to this discussion. The discussion tonight, though, is the crystals that I have in this box will show rapid formation. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Now, let me give you some examples of things that happen quickly. Okay? Look, neither science, creation or evolution, if you want to call it that, can observe fossils in the field. We can't. So because we start with a premise that the Earth is 4.5 billion years, that life started 3.5 billion years ago, that the fossil record, when it comes to actual cellular animals or plants, started about 1 billion years ago, and that we got going and things really got going about 600 million years ago, okay? And us around 3 to 4 million years ago. So that's the premise of that. That's the timeline of that. Okay. Crystals, we assume then, because we believe, I'm just taking the evolutionary perspective, modern geology perspective, because we believe, then therefore, this either took a long time to form or it formed a long time ago. Do you get what I'm saying? From a creationist standpoint, this formed 6,000 to 4,000 approximately years ago, and it formed quickly. Now, since we can't see these being formed in nature, and by the way, we really do. There is the Fly Geyser that's in, I believe, Nevada. You can look it up. It's a beautiful, privately owned geyser. It's quite magnificent. Now, they don't have any pictures of it, but inside the walls of this geyser, the geyser is not that old. It's like decades old. Inside, there are huge crystals being formed. And if you read the articles, not by creationists, they'll tell you that we were surprised. Every time you hear science say we are surprised, take note. We were surprised how large and how quickly those crystals formed. Now, before we go any further, I want to share with you what I was able to extract from the internet. And I looked. Now, again, I didn't look at all trillion pages on the internet, but I looked for how old do the experts say that quartz crystals is. Here's what I was able to come up with, okay? Some of the hardest types of minerals take millions of years to form. Diamonds are made of organic material that's been compressed under layers of rock for long periods of time. And yet, and I'll get to this in a second as far as the laboratory, okay? Why we use the laboratory to test some of these. This right here, folks, that is a 3-carat diamond. And that was formed in a laboratory in months. Is it a fake diamond? No. It's a perfect diamond, I can tell you that. And that 3-carat diamond was created inside of months in a laboratory. Now you'll say, well, that's a laboratory. I understand that. But in nature, and this is where the critics will say, but in nature it takes longer periods of time. Based on what? Well, based on the fact that the Earth is 4.51 billion years old. Well, what if the Earth is 1 trillion years old, but life on Earth and all the geological processes, for the most part, are no more than 6,000 to 10,000 years, or 4,000 to 6,000 years? Then what? Well, let me just say, well, then they would all have to have been recent, not that old, and would have had to form very quickly. So the question you would want to ask is this: can they form quickly? Well, when we go out into the wild, for the most part, we can't see them form quickly because A, you ready for this? It takes a long period of time and we're not able to stick around long enough to be able to see it from start to finish. Okay. Or, sorry, I almost lost my train of thought there. Go out in there and see it, and can't see it because it's going to take too long. And the other idea is that Give me a second here. I lost my train of thought. Forgive me. Well, let me move on. So you can't go out into the wilderness to find it. That's what I was going to say. And if you could, then sorry. Okay. This is what's great about live. You know what I mean? We absolutely can observe fossils forming today, such as in limestone. Howard, that's great. My email is lostworldmuseum@gmail.com. Could you send me some fast forming recent limestone fossils? I would like to see it. I do have a few of my own that I'll be sharing with you soon, but I would like to see what you mean by that. Let me just see here. What's up, John? Okay. Please tell us, folks, that the earth is not flat. The earth is not flat. People are claiming that in the Bible the earth is flat. No, it's not a flat. It's not even a discussion. On this channel, the whole flat thing is a non-discussion. I think that it is sorry. Okay, getting back to our presentation. Are there examples then of things that have been done in the laboratory that show the same conditions, replicating the conditions of the worldwide flood? Exhibit A, the diamond that I just showed you. If the earth is young, that is the geology, okay, not the original rock, then this exhibit right here in the lab is replicating the conditions that happened during and after the worldwide flood. And that is a 3-carat diamond being done in a matter of months in the laboratory. And this is a real diamond, whereas geologists will tell you that it takes millions, no, billion years to create a diamond. Fossils. This right here is a fossilized leaf. This was created in a laboratory in 2 days. That's not a drawing. That's not a photograph that's been pasted on rock. Listen to this. And then he put a couple other leaves in the same matrix right there. Take a good look. That's rock. And those leaves are no longer have carbon, as far as I know. They are an impression in rock. These are fossilized 2 days. And what he did, because he's a creationist, he's trying to unravel the mystery, if you want to call it, of the conditions that were around at the time during the worldwide flood that could produce fossils. So we can produce diamonds in the lab. We can produce leaf fossils in 2 days in the laboratory. So, and this is maybe a poor example that I'm going to show you, but you get the idea that when it comes to the congealing, the formation of the minerals that we see in and around our Earth, either they were long periods of time and very old, or it's short period of time and very young. It's one or the other. Take a look at this. It's a conglomerate of sand and stone and everything. And whoops! Oh! Is that a champion spark plug encased in this? Yes. And why? Because the conditions were right. Look, if the conditions are not right, something can sit there for 1 billion years and nothing is going to happen to it. Zero. So you got to have the right conditions in order for it to happen. And what we're seeing in the laboratory is that we're seeing that when these conditions, which we believe are the conditions during the worldwide flood, I know I'm repeating myself, that things can formulate quickly. I think that evolution would like you to think that in nature, it takes a long time. In the laboratory, we can speed that up. I maintain that it's in the laboratory, it's sped up, if you might want to call it that, meaning that it takes a very short period of time to prove that in nature, which we cannot observe, it can be done in nature when the conditions are just right. And during the worldwide flood, those conditions were right. And we see those conditions replicating themselves in small ways in nature, such as this. What is sandstone? It's a bunch of sand that gets congealed into a rock. What is this? There's a lot of sand there, friends, and there's other rocks too. And sure, yes, the iron leached from this spark plug. How old is this? If there was no spark plug in there, you would have no idea. You could say it's 10 years old, you could say it's 10 million years old, and you'd probably be right. You know what I'm saying, as far as having a correct answer. But since it's got a spark plug in it, it date stamps itself. Thank you very much. All right. You're right, it is a concretion. That's the great thing about what we're doing here. This is shoulder to shoulder with you, friends. You can do the same kind of research that I do and make sometimes the same mistakes as I do. But I hope that you get the point instead of, the little things I may or may not be doing correct. All right, let's look at one more. And again, this one was sent to France. No, sorry, this was already in France. This is a French Coke bottle. It's backwards vision, but it is French. And we had them put this in a calcite bath, meaning that it was a cave. This is a tourist attraction. And water was coming down, a goodly amount of water was coming down and would hit this 5 weeks later. This is what we end up with. That's 5 millimeters of pure calcite, which is what you see on the stalactites and stalagmites. That's great, Howard. And there is no, and I'll tell you what, those who are critics of what we're saying here on this program, I'm not saying Howard is, they will say that all the things that I bring to you, they'll roll their eyes, and with that condescending, and Howard has a bit, he's been a real sweetheart. I appreciate that. Real condescension in their typing or voice, they will say, we know that fossils can form quickly and blah, blah, blah. If that's the case, why does it seem like those facts are hidden? I'm not suggesting that they are. Why does it seem that way, though? Why aren't we told that all these things can be done very quickly? Oh, and by the way, we believe they're not. Because it doesn't help the position, is what my contention is. Okay, we've seen everything here, and here we go. And before I open up the package, I'm going to do a real quick commercial break, and that is our text line, 315, and it's in the description below this video, 315-509-9075. Now, who should text that number? Nobody outside the United States or Canada can. Okay, it's just good for the United States and Canada. It's free. We have about 270 people that get and I texted them 45 minutes before I went on live, and I said, hey Bob, hey Sally, we're going live in 45 minutes, please join me. Now, this text line, if you text this, just say, hey John, and I'll text you back after the program, and I'll say, hey Bob, welcome to the text group, and that's it. And you'll get a text from me every once in a while, or if you ever have a question, you're welcome to text me, and you can always opt out. And for those of you who are going to ask, it's free. All right. Let's open up our package that we've been building up to. You guys have been wonderful. And before we do that, let me just say that these were grown in a laboratory. What they'll do is they'll take something way smaller than this. They call it a seed crystal. And they'll put a wire around it. And then it goes through a process that I have not actually witnessed. So forgive me, but it goes through a process of growing the crystal. Now, when we look at these crystals that I'm going to pull out of this box, understand that these are crystals that were grown in a 9-month period, okay? Not 100,000 years, not thousands of years, not millions of years, not hundreds of millions of years, but 9 months. Let's take a look at them, okay? Been waiting all week to show you these. I'm glad you're here to witness this. Those of you just joining us, welcome. We're opening up right now. We're doing an unboxing of some recently made and quick forming crystals. And what's remarkable about this is it shows that crystals are not something that form over the course of billions or millions or hundreds of thousands or even thousands of years, but that they can form quickly. All right, let me get my tray back up here so you guys can see them better. He has a tendency of packing everything very thoroughly, so. Okay. Now, I have not seen these. This will be the first time I've seen photographs of them when I purchased them, but I have not seen them in person. So I'm curious myself. This may take a second, so grab your popcorn if you hope you have already. I want to take my time with this because I don't know how fragile it is. So I'm going to take his word. This is the last layer of toilet paper. This came to me from Canada. Okay, I thought that was the last one. What if I just like open this up completely and it's like there's nothing there? Those of you just joining us, we're unraveling and unboxing some crystals that have been grown in the laboratory. And the reason why we know that these are not in nature, because that wire I showed you earlier, that wire is still in here, and either in both of them or one of them. Let's see what we find. And don't worry, I'm going to make a video on this where I can get some really great close-up photography. So. Oh, interesting. Take a look. There's the wire right there. The wire that I showed you earlier, that they have to put a seed crystal, and then the wire apparently in some of these remains in there, doesn't get taken out or whatever. Seed crystal would be something like small, like this right here. They wrap a wire around it and then grow the crystal. I've never seen it done. And this was done in 9 months, not 9,000 years. 9 months. Some may think this is unremarkable. Some may understand the implications here and think, oh, got it. All right, you want to see the other one? It may take a few moments for me to unravel it, but let's take a look at the other one. See if it's as remarkable as that one or better or whatever. Let's see. It might be able to be replicated on the Earth. I can tell you, like I say, Spy Geyser. Look up the article on Spy Geyser, and they had crystals form with no pictures though, and it's privately owned, the land that this is on. But the Spy Geyser has crystals forming, and they were like, whoops, surprisingly big crystals in a very short period of time, meaning that they had no idea that the crystals could form that quickly. You see, in nature, a lot of these processes have stopped almost altogether. That's the reason why you don't see fossilization taking place right now. It's not because we can't stick around long enough. I mean, how about petrified wood that's halfway, or coalization? You know, they say that it comes from peat in a swamp. And we're going to be talking more about that in the next couple of weeks. We should be able to drill down into an old swamp and find coal then, you would think. All right, here we go. There you go, friends. And like I say, I'm going to get some nice close-up photography. That is a wire. Let's see if I can. Beautiful. There we go. A wire going through a crystal that's approximately 3 inches long, about 3/4 of an inch. Nine months. 9 months. And if I was to ask any geologist, one second here. How long does this crystal take to form in the earth? To be honest with you, the few places I did find it were almost ambivalent, meaning that they were kind of like, not really like, you know, it's almost like millions of years ago, that type of thing. You know, it takes thousands of years, it said in one place. We know that it happened sometime after 200 million years ago when the continents did whatever. And then there was another place that said, you know, 1 million years. So I found a couple of places, but you are hard pressed to find anyone when you ask the question, how long does it take to form a crystal? Go ahead, knock yourself out, look for it. You see that right there? How long do you think, or how old do you think, or how long do you think it would take to form this crystal if you were to ask a geologist? And yet, here we go. We got a crystal that was created in the laboratory. 9 months it took. And we know that because the wire that holds the seed crystal never was taken out. This is not something you find on eBay. It was very expensive, to be honest with you. I'm a geologist. Because it can happen in a lab does not mean that it can happen rapidly in nature. If the worldwide flood, Howard, actually happened, then those conditions is what we're suggesting here were there. And the fact that we don't see it in nature can also mean that because the worldwide flood and all of the forces that were taking place there have pretty much stopped, you're not going to find it in nature anymore. Matter of fact, if nature is the one producing these things, why aren't we seeing things that are half-baked in nature? And I'm not talking about why aren't monkeys becoming humans. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about petrification. I'm talking about coalization. I'm talking about crystallization, you know, that type of thing. So, look, I don't have a PhD. I don't have an MBA or whatever, a master's in this. I'm a trained enthusiast. And so those of you that want to join us on this adventure together, I invite you now to go ahead and subscribe and hit that little bell and hit the top tier of the bell so that you can actually get notified when we're going to be doing our next thing, okay? Would not create the necessary conditions. How do you know that? And I mean that in a kind way. How do you know that when flood geologists believe that it did occur like that? I mean, that the conditions were like that. We're talking a massive amount of water, sediment, movement, pressure, heat, volcanism, all going off at the exact same time and making what happened in Sumatra look like a rubber ducky in a bathtub, meaning that the amount of destruction and the amount of it makes Mount St. Helens look like a pop gun as far as what was going on worldwide, should the Genesis account be true. One other thing to consider when weighing the options, and I'll end here with this tonight. If the worldwide flood didn't happen, then Moses, the former commander of the Egyptian army, is a liar. And Jesus, who is the one that spoke things into existence in his pre-incarnate form, is a liar. Because he said Adam and Eve existed, the flood existed, Moses existed, and Noah existed. And so then Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Peter, and Paul are all liars. And who is going to go and tell the 500 indigenous people throughout the entire globe that have a legend of a worldwide, not local, worldwide flood that wiped out humanity for being naughty? Who's going to go and tell them that their legends are nothing more than somehow a collective fairy tale, that somehow in your ancient times, everybody throughout the world has this memory? Who? So there you go. All right. You're right, but you can't prove it. All I can show you is some evidence with two interpretations and have you guys decide for yourself. Ultimately, and may I say this in all kindness and all candor, that truth, whatever it may be, that the reception of it has more to do with the heart than it does with the head. And some of you, that may be a light bulb that goes on. Others may just say you're full of bananas because you don't know what you're talking about. And that's okay. No, but one way or the other, Patriot, it is not a provable thing. You know, we haven't observed it. Science says they need to observe it. Creation science says, yes, let's observe it. But the acceptance of Genesis as true is the starting point. Okay? It may not sound scientific, but where did they come up with the idea that the earth was millions and billions of years old? Look into it. 200 years ago, there was a few men, Hutton and Charles Lyell. All right. And then, of course, you know, you've got Charles Darwin jumping on board with biological evolution. So there you have it. Observable, testable, repeatable. What about gap theory? Well, again, I said earlier in the program that the earth could be 1 trillion years old. That is the original granite and the original rock and the original water that was here, waiting for the creation week. So I have no problem with that myself. But what we're really focusing on is day 1, day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then day 7 of the creation week and then the worldwide flood as a means of saying, hey, read Genesis if you've never done it and just sit back and ask. You can ask it to yourself or ask it to the ether or a God that you're maybe going to connect with or whatever. Is this true? And then just sit there and wait and see if there's an answer that comes to you. All right. Gotta go. Thank you for joining us. And we've got a lot more videos on our channel. Please feel free to have a ball. Appreciate you guys coming out tonight and watching us. Hoping to have another program next week. We may do a show and tell next week if we don't have an unboxing, but just look for it. And there you go. Yeah, ice crystals form almost instantly in frozen temperatures. Why not these? Exactly. What I didn't say, sorry, I was winding down. What I didn't say is that these form just the opposite. It gets real hot, moisture and the minerals and the conditions that are necessary. And then as it cools down, then these form. So you got water that turns into ice. And then you got like steam and minerals that turn into rock ice. It's very interesting how that works. All right. There's science before religion and everything after. Okay. I'm glad you guys are here. Even anybody who disagrees, it's cool. I'll see you later. Have a good day. Remember, is it apes, aliens, or Adam?